Give it a press record. All right.
All right, there's our theme music, guys, and we're off and running. It is Music Milestones YYZ, Scott Turner, Ivor Hamilton. Our special guests, Humble and Fred, are here. Thank you, guys.
Thank you so much for being here. This is
funny.
This is awesome to have you guys here. And I got to say, we wouldn't have our podcast if it wasn't for you guys, because you guys helped us get off the ground and give us invaluable advice. And this is like podcast number 37 for us, so we kind of made it over that first hump.
Well, listen, I remember didn't the four of us have a conversation a while back?
Yeah,
talking about you guys getting started, and now here you are. You're doing great. You're both looking well. And before Fred jumps in, is this one of those things where you're like, after that CFNY documentary night, you're like, oh, we got to do something.
Yeah, I mean,
is this one of those guilt things where you're like, oh shit, we got to get Howard and Fred on?
Well, Scott was joking last week. So, Ivor, are we doing a theme park now or whatever, right? Because we're doing this podcast, and now we're doing the book, and we might be doing a beer next year. So we'll see what happens, right? But yeah, it's the retirement thing, right? Yeah, we got to do something, right? So.
Yeah, how's the monetization going?
Well, we could look to you for some advice, right? We ran some fake commercials just to
well, that's all right.
Maybe get some interest, but we could use some pointers, on how that's all happened, right? So.
Well, that's an old CFNY Spirit of Radio throwback, fake commercials.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, there was a lot of
business plan. We're working with somebody who's helping us with the podcast as well, and we did have a business plan. He said, Ivor and I had made it very clear from the beginning. He says, we're not out to make money. And the guy said, I love that plan. That's a really good one. That's going to work really well for you guys.
If that's at the top of your business plan, you're already successful.
Well, we're using T-shirt money to help fund, if we need a little bit of extra equipment or whatever, right? So that's what it's sort of come down to. But it was, it was quite an endeavor to get our little store CFNY.com off the grounds, and we got to pay Chorus for each one of those T-shirts that we sell too. So,
you do?
Yeah, we pay a royalty to Chorus for using the the trademark.
That's nice of you guys, because they actually need it.
Yeah, no, that's true too, right?
Is that why the stock price popped a bit there from 3 cents to 3 1/4?
Yeah, it's the merch that did it.
All those merch
third quarter earnings are up because of some T-shirt money we got from Ivor and Scott.
I just have to. That's something like. So you wanted to put the T-shirts out. You thought, of course, the proper protocol is to run it by them because obviously they own it.
Yes.
So does that go to some kind of a department? Because you'd think they'd say, hey, guys, that's so far in the distance, go crazy. But there's some money department that come back and had some tabulation on what you should pay them for each T-shirt?
They gave us a percentage of what we need to account back to them off of our merchandise sales. Yeah.
Wow. And what is that percentage?
What's the percentage, Ivor?
It's 20%. 20% of net sales.
Did you try to bring that down, or that was it?
No, that was it. But I will tell you that when we went out and did the dock tour, is that most of the venues because there were venues that charged a merch fee, most of them were 20%. In Hamilton, in Waterloo, we had to pay and we paid in Montreal, and they were between 15 and 20% at that point, right? So it all adds up, and that's why you get these T-shirts for that are $45 because you got to pay the any of those big venues that like you're at the the Bud Stage or whatever they call it, or RBC, those are all even more. Which is why now you're seeing $65 T-shirts out there, which is insane, right?
Well, business is business, and you guys, you're aware of the story that Howard and I have when we started the podcast, and Chorus got a hold of us and said to stop using Humble and Fred. They own the name. Did you guys ever hear that story?
No, tell us that story. Yeah, that would be
well, this is a good time to tell it, isn't it?
Yes, let's do it.
We just, we we left Mojo and went to the Mix as Humble and Fred. Nothing was ever said. I guess they didn't want to tangle with Slate or whatever. Mm-hmm. And then we just started doing the podcast. And then one day we get this letter from Chorus Radio saying that Humble and Fred is a trademark, or that name is owned by Chorus Radio. Stop using it. And we didn't take it serious at first, but a little investigation proved that that was the case.
Wow.
And what was the actual figure we had to pay them?
Well, what happened is, remember, we made a bit out of it. We called Dave Farrow to come in on the show. And we negotiated sort of like a charity thing or something, didn't we, Howard? Anyway, in the end, it cost us over $3,000.
Yeah, originally I think they wanted us to give them $5,000.
Right.
Yeah. And then we had Farrow, who was our boss for a short time, come in and, as Freddie said, we made a little bit of a bit out of it. But they were serious. They didn't want to let it go.
Right.
So we spent several $1,000s for a good cause. But it was, at the time.
Yeah.
Yeah, at the time, we didn't have a lot of extra money for the good cause would have been not giving $3,000 to someone.
Yeah, is this going to be like that Bare Naked Ladies bit where it was like 3,000 and no, it was 5,000? How much did we give them?
Great.
No, it's not, because Howard's right. It was a larger figure, and then in the end, it was 3,000 and something that we donated or something, and then but it was very embarrassing. It was embarrassing for them. For us, it was sort of insulting. Because listen, those that T-shirt Howard is wearing, the CFNY, I sort of get that. That's a trademark or something. Yes. But what are they going to do with Humble and Fred if Humble and Fred don't work there? It's just bizarre.
I mean, it's when I left CFNY originally, and I don't know if Scott was part of this, but it was the late Vince DiMaggio. And I was at Polygram Records at the time, and they demanded all of my interviews back. They said, we need all of your interviews. That CFNY owns all of the interviews that you did with these artists on the air, and we need them all back. Now, they did give them back to me. They dubbed all of them, and then they gave back. But they were very heavy-handed about it at the time. And if I would looked at it in today's world, I probably could have fought that, because they would have been the record labels.
Ivor, was that part of the intellectual property thing that was going around with a lot of media at the time? Didn't late night David Letterman go through that too with CBS and all that nonsense? So anything you create on the show, whoever is the company behind it owns everything you come up with, which is kind of stupid for creative people, because it makes you want to save and not introduce new creative ideas that are basically yours while being employed by a company that actually owns anything you come up with.
Right. Yeah.
It's crazy.
One more story further to that involves, again, Chorus Radio stations, or Chorus Radio. When Howard and I went to the Mix, I had a whole sort of library, or whatever you want to call it, of Mr. Goo Head episodes on DVD. Or no, not DVD. What do you call it?
Tapes, right?
No, on CDs.
CDRs or whatever.
So when we left, I phoned Jeff DeMette, who had been one of our producers, and I said, I want to pick those CDs up. And then he got back to me and he said, no, our program director, Scott Armstrong, or whoever, said that's property of Chorus Radio. No, we can't have those.
Oh, God.
Right. So then we waited about a week or 2 weeks or whatever it was, and then Jeff got them, and I drove by the station one morning at Yonge and Dundas, and he brought them out to the car for me and gave them to me. Because once it was out of their mouths that they owned it, they sort of forgot about it quickly. And I ended up with them, and we ended up playing some on the Mix, and nothing ever came of it. But initially they said, no, Fred can't have those. Yeah. They are ours.
That came to be known as the Great Goo Head CD caper.
Yes.
Actually, they made a crime podcast out of that, did they not?
Oh, yeah. Well, I will say I loved Goo Head. Goo Head was always great to me, and there was another character that I really, really enjoyed, that Howard, it was Howard Chan. I always thought that was hilarious or whatever.
Yeah, that wasn't me. That was
I know it wasn't you, but it was your buddy that did it, right?
It was a buddy of ours. Can I say something about Goo Head that I've said before, that we're all radio guys, and I had been around long before I got to CFNY. The Edge, I'd worked in, commercial radio, but I've been a big fan of, morning guys in Chicago and KCBQ in San Diego, and listened to a lot of tapes. And so generally when guys did bits like Fred did Mr. Goo Head, the joke was always sort of a bit of a kind of cruel with the person that they called. You know what I mean? Like the victim was the caller. And it was a pretty standard radio bit. But when I heard Goo Head, and now you guys will agree because you heard it before I did, what sets Goo Head apart, excuse me, is that the joke's always on Goo Head. It's a prank. It's a prank, but the person being pranked isn't made to look like a shithead. You know what I mean?
Right.
And I always thought that was the brilliance of it. And that was the first time I'd ever heard that bit, which is, again, calling up and having fun with a unsuspecting caller, where the character was part of the joke, or was the main joke, because his getting mixed up allowed Fred to have fun with these people without making us feel sorry that, well, you know what I'm saying, Freddie.
Yeah. No, I know exactly what you're saying. It wasn't making them look like a fool. In fact,
them look like a fool.
Often they were quite compassionate and tried to lead me through. So they ended up looking nice, and I know what you mean.
Yeah, the classic morning guy bit that I used to hate was the wreck a wedding bit. Yeah. I never understood that.
Terror.
It's like, oh, hey, I got a great idea. Let's call up some of our listeners and make their lives miserable. Right. Okay. Yeah. Okay. How did that get out of the meeting? Okay. So, and then what happens? Well, then everyone will feel, it was just a weird dynamic. And I always thought that the brilliance of Goo Head was it wasn't that.
Yeah.
Right. Let me just ask about the beginning of Humble and Fred. And I've heard lots of, we all know when you guys came together at CFNY, but who was the person who actually put you two together, and how well did you guys know each other when it all came together?
Well, I didn't know Fred at all, but the guy that put us together I knew very well. I'd worked with Danny Kingsbury. At that time, I'd known him for a decade. And so I didn't know Fred at all, but I knew I trusted Danny. And when Danny said that he and I would get along, that Fred and I would get along, I sort of trusted that, because Danny knew my sense of humor, and he'd gotten to know Fred and thought very highly of Fred in a very short period of time. And so that was kind of the, it was like a friend. If you're like, oh, I know this guy, I really like him. You know what? Yeah. You'll really like him.
Yeah. Fate and the way things unfold, because originally when CFNY wanted to make that morning show change, they actually went after Howard and Jeff Lumby, who's on our show all the time. Jeff and Howard were doing a morning show in Montreal, and Jeff didn't want to come, but Howard did. And then I was there, and I had worked with several people in the morning, including Scott. And then Dan, it was like, okay, what's plan B? Well, Fred's in there all the time anyway, has been for several years. He'd probably work good with Howard. So then I flew to Montreal one day with Danny and met Howard, and we hit it off pretty quickly.
Yeah, so, Fred always says I scared him on the way home from the airport, because I picked up Fred and Danny, and I just drove like I drove, and apparently Fred was horrified by it.
And Danny Kingsbury, a great guy, great PD. Another one of those guys that, was caught within a rock and a hard place, because CFNY was what it was. And, there was, a foundation there of people that wanted to stay as it was. And he was just a grown-up that was hired to do a job, and he did it. To my benefit, I guess to Howard's benefit. But he was a great guy.
He hired me at when he was at Q107. I was on the air for a year.
Yeah.
Doing a modern rock show, 2-hour show on a Sunday mornings, and it was like 1994. And he was the one who brought me there. He was very good to me that time.
Well, he's a great guy. Scott,
he's a good man.
Did you work with Danny at all?
Yes. Just briefly, a little stint when he was at CFNY then, and just through it was his son that actually was working out in Kitchener.
Brady.
Brady.
Yeah. Brady's still out there doing mornings.
Who was great. Brady was fantastic to work with, and that's how I got to know him more, and his father, of course.
Yeah, Brady's a good kid. And I was actually just talking to Lumby because Lumby was in town a couple weeks ago, and Brady is his godson. Right. So Jeff was telling me about how apparently Brady's just been killing it in that market.
Yeah. Yeah. No, really, really smart guy and a fun, nice, down to earth guy. How many years total now since you guys known each other from first meeting? What years are we at now?
35 years this summer, Scott. Right. 35
longer
years.
than that.
Is it? 1989.
Yeah. 37.
37. That's what I meant. 37.
Now, another question on milestones, because Fred has a milestone birthday coming up. Is there going to be a Freddie P 70 birthday party bash?
Nope.
No.
Nope.
Okay.
There wasn't a 65. You didn't have a 65th either, did you, Howard? Really?
No.
Okay. No, I'm not into that. Either is my wife. We have a pact. Nope. Nothing.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
There was something I thought of for Fred, and I still might. It's not a party. There's something that I think Fred would really like that I saw online that I'm thinking of. It's not even a thing of getting it for him to alert him to it. I think he'd really like it. So there. I'm not going to. I won't.
How old is she?
Jeez.
Okay.
But you're going to do some travel, Fred, right?
Wait. That's what I'm going to do. Hey, doll, what is it okay if I get Fred a whore for his 70th birthday? Well, doll be like, well, I guess that would be okay, I suppose.
If it takes the attention off me, yes, do it.
Less for me to do.
Yeah.
No, but I promise I'm not going to get a surprise party. But I saw something a couple months ago that I thought, I should let Freddie know, and he would maybe go to do this thing for his 70th birthday. So
Really?
yeah, buddy. Yes, people are thinking about you all the time.
Yes,
Nice.
people love you, Freddie. And,
Oh my God!
Right?
They love him.
Not everybody. But
Well, I know, but
everybody.
But
The show should have been called "Everybody Loves Fred."
all right.
That's what the show should have been called.
Yeah.
I don't even know. I could have just
I
been
like
some
that.
guy in the background. And now here's the Smiths.
Yeah. Everybody loves Fred, including that guy over there.
We're not that far behind you, Freddie. We're the rest of us here are all 66.
Right.
We're all just
Are we all
behind
the
you.
same age?
Yeah.
I'm 66. So are you? How are you? 60?
I'm 1960.
Okay,
Yeah, me too.
I'm August 59, so not too far behind.
My girlfriend Shona has a great joke. I was talking about how when you have to put in your age now, and it's sometimes on a digial, you have to keep scrolling it back. It goes like 90s, 80s, 70s, and then it's all of a sudden it's in Roman numerals. It's a great joke. I wish are you sure I didn't think
That
of
is
that?
a good one. That is
Are you
a good
sure
one.
that's your bit? I swear it was my bit. She claims it's hers. It's not your bit. It's
Well,
mine
you've-
now.
I actually had a buddy of mine who's no longer with us, but he taught at universities or whatever, and when we were teenagers and you get the fake ID, he actually got reverse fake ID to say that he was younger because the girls in some of his sessions at the university goes, "Oh, how old are you, Pat?" And he goes, "I'll never tell," or whatever. And then he'd leave the fake ID on the table so they could see what it was. But I don't know if that was a creepy thing or not. But
Hey, no, Ivor doesn't sound creepy at all. So creepy. So super
I didn't do it. I had anything to do with it.
So as we were talking about at the CFNY documentary evening,
Yes.
or as it's come to be known as the evening of snub. But one of the things that for me, like I said, I'd worked at regular radio stations. I guess of the four of us, I had sort of the most experience in regular commercial radio stations. Mm-hmm. And so coming to CFNY, I had by that time done mornings in 3 cities. I'd been on the radio for a long time, and I was just not prepared for, the kind of vibe the place was. Completely unique, and I understand it now, as I said that night. I get it now because I've known you guys and Frederick all these years, but, think about it. I'm 29 years old. I finally get a gig in Toronto. Like, it's a big deal for me. Mm-hmm. And then in a very short period of time, I'm like, wait a minute. These guys think they're supposed to pull their own music? What the fuck is that? Like, I just thought everything about it was absurd. And very, very shortly, I remember asking my ex-wife, "Is it okay if I quit?" I just wanted to get out of there. Only because, imagine being drafted in the big leagues, and then you get up there, and it's like the equipment manager is picking the lineup.
Right. And so was that when Reiner was the PD at that
No,
point?
when I got hired, Danny was the PD, but then he gets kicked out of there. The station that they were going to try and make it into this modern rock thing that goes back to the alternative format, they bring in Reiner, and I was just looking around going, I don't know if this isn't really what I thought my gig was going to be, other than working with Fred.
Right.
Like our show, to me, very quickly it's felt very normal. It's felt like a morning show that I had done before because our chemistry was so good. And I think the show kind of caught on pretty quickly. And I remember at one time thinking, wow, it's weird. The listeners like us better than the people we work with.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
So you come in 89, you leave in 91. Who was the PD when you left?
When I left, it was Reiner.
It was Reiner.
Yeah.
Right.
Which I can understand. And Danny had left by then to go out to Hamilton.
Yeah,
right?
Danny had gone before Reiner. Yeah.
So when Danny came, it was under Jim Fonger when they went top 40, which was a bit wobbly. I mean, the cume went up huge, but I don't know what happened to the share. But
Yeah.
and then you leave, and then they bring in Reiner in, and it gets right back to what it was, and it was so bizarre under Reiner.
Oh, what's so bizarre? Just quickly, did you guys know the story about Reiner telling Fred and I in a meeting that we would be the station that didn't say the call letters?
Yeah,
I heard something
it's
about
my favorite
that.
story.
Yeah. And that's very Reiner, yes.
Very Reiner. And then Earl Jive yelling at me. I said something like, we need a few more short songs to time out to the news. And he just basically said, why don't you just shut up?
Really?
I was like,
I
okay.
never heard that story before.
Oh, yeah.
Well, maybe you should just shut up.
Well, and then you understand why Howard left.
Right.
I stayed. I didn't get an offer to go to the mix, but he did. And is that when I started working with you in May under Reiner? I can't even remember, Scott. Is that like that era?
91.
Yeah, you would have. That's what the morning show.
was,
You, May, and Scott.
Yeah, very short period of time. The one thing in retrospect I think about Humble going back to those days, I think because of how important the music was to that station and format, talk about a challenging radio station to be a morning show on, because the music side of it is just so big on the station and unique. So, trying to be what in traditional radio is just being a morning show that you do your morning show thing. It might be the toughest kind of territory to be in.
Well, how did you find it? Because I guess you were more of a music-oriented morning guy.
Well, yeah, and honestly, and I think I over-explained this to Fred and other people when I apologized for being on the morning show, which I should not have been, but my angle was, I was, and this is where I became into programming later, because there was a part of me that was a kind of a programmer. I was looking at, I'm going, okay, why is our ratings on this radio station, really good in the evenings and weekends, but it's, daytime is not the greatest. And then I looked at these other stations and I looked at the morning shows. I go, Jesus, Chum FM is massive. And then there's Don Daynard is massive. And CBC was pulling in numbers. And I thought, well, maybe the angle for CFNY is to have just a kind of basic morning show that's not like super funny. That's just, let's talk about the music and be kind of boring and stuffy like these other stations, and certainly CBC. And then maybe that's where we could win the ratings. And that's kind of where I thought, well, I could do that. I could talk about music and be a music geek, and maybe that would be the future.
Yeah, but I know why CFNY had such great numbers on the weekends and the evenings, because they really didn't have any competition. All the people that were giving those other stations huge numbers were watching television at night. So, the style of radio station lend itself to those people, CFNY listeners, listening at night during homework, during, studying for exams or out and about in their cars. I figure, that's why they did so well.
But I would like to state for the record, I'm sure I've told Fred this before. but I've always thought you had such a great presentation, Scott. I always thought you were.
Yes.
I really, really admire not just your voice, because when people tell us as radio people, "Oh, you have a really nice voice," I don't know. For some reason, it feels like I don't know, weirdly not a compliment, because it's like, okay, but it's what's coming out of your head that's important. But I always thought your presentation was great.
Yes.
Well, thank you.
And really loved your voice.
Yes.
And I just thought you had a real nice way about you in all the different shifts I've heard you.
Yes.
And as far as the morning show at CFNY or whatever, like, yeah, I mean, we really sort of established ourselves a little bit before I left, but I was only gone for about 15 or 16 months. I left in May of 91, and in the summer of 92, I get a call from Fred, because as I've said again a million times, I had to leave the radio station. I didn't want to leave Fred, but the offer was for me. These are people I had worked for in Montreal, so they knew me. And when I came here to work at another company, they didn't want to lose me. They wanted me in their chain, which is why I ended up working for Slate like 3 or 4 times in my life. But anyway, when the Fred man called me and said, "Hey, these guys from Calgary, they know you." These were people I had worked in competition with, Vince DiMaggio, Stuart Myers. Freddie said, "Hey, they want to have lunch." And I was like, "I don't know if I want to go." Like, I was just like, I don't know if I want to go back there. The fucking weird little college type station. But, I did miss working with him. The morning show I was doing at the Mix at that time, it was fine. But I missed working with Freddie. So I took that lunch, and then, I came back, and then we've been basically doing it for a million years.
Plus, they laid out the strategy, and the thing is, it was going to become, remember it started being the leading edge and then morphed into the edge from Spirit of Radio, leading edge. Well, the radio station was going to be called The Edge. So it had to be true to its name. So part of that would be to have an edgy morning show.
Yes.
Which was the strategy when Stuart Myers and Vince DiMaggio were putting that plan together. It's like, we're going to have a morning show, so we're going to need an edgy morning show. And that's when the idea of bringing Howard back to work with me was hatched.
Yeah, apparently
branding.
Some people thought I had a little bit of an edge to me. I guess I don't know where that came from. All right. Well, this has been great. Thanks for having us on, you guys. Appreciate it.
We could
really enjoyed it.
For Canada Day.
Really enjoyed it. This was excellent. What's this called? Music Matters. I appreciate it.
No. The music milestones.
Music milestones.
What about
I was saying,
Dan?
Ivor, we don't need a format because Howard will take over the show.
I
at
know,
some
we don't
point
have
anyway.
I'm done. I've said all I have to say, Scott.
I want to talk about Dan.
I just wanted to make sure you knew that I thought you had a beautiful voice. You too,
thank
Ivy.
you.
Thanks a lot. Dan Duran, he's always been with you guys. He's kind of like the Ed McMahon of Humble and Fred. Like, how did Dan get to work with you guys?
Well, I started working at a radio station in Moose Jaw in 1977. In 1978, this fellow from Edmonton arrived, and he was friends with Danny Kingsbury, who I was friends with already, and Jeff Lumby, who came later. And Dan and I worked together for a few years before I went to Vancouver. Then when I got a job in Calgary, Dan was at that radio station, and we just kept in touch. Dan moved to California around the same time I did for 3 or 4 years in the middle 80s. Kept in touch, and then I get this job with Fred. And as you guys know, or may not, you wouldn't remember, but they gave us a producer who, within a few days, it was clear, thought our show was stupid. And how did I know that? Because he would say things like, "Your show is stupid." And so I said to Fred, I know this guy who would be he's an amazing production guy.
Yeah.
He'd never produced a morning show, but he was such a good, you know what I mean? One of those guys that, like a John Massacre that we all worked with, like an amazing, one of the best I'd ever worked with. And I said to Freddie, "This guy, he's great. He's funny, or good sense of humor, big voice." And Dan was hired in November of 1989. I know that because that's the month I got married, and Dan lived on my couch for a couple months.
Okay.
Which is by the way, I recommend it. The best way to start a marriage is have Dan Duran in your home, and that's how it all began. Fred,
You know what I loved on your podcast recently when you were laughing, and it was just about Dan getting to the point with his questions. Sometimes he takes a little meandering around.
Oh, yeah. He
just get to the point, Dan. Yeah,
he can't,
I love you, Dan.
He can't put it together. He has trouble making words.
Yes. Howard mentioned that first producer.
Yes.
There's another great example, because part of my struggle through the early years was when, and I always maintain, I didn't own the radio station. It was a private radio station, not a public radio station. So those who owned it were free to do whatever they wanted with it. And like any other business would want to make more money. I always understood that. Whatever they wanted to do, I was on board. And if I wasn't, I would leave, like Howard did. I never did. But that Greg Williams, I mean, that was the name of the producer. Do you remember him?
Yep. I do remember Greg. Yep.
Before Howard got there, we had a pretty neat relationship, me and him. You know what I mean? We weren't buddies, but it was like, hey, how you doing? Like friendly conversations. Sure. Howard arrives, he becomes our producer, and he has this attitude. So he had a decision to make. Hop on and become producer of this morning show that really had a lot of potential, obviously, or that the company was behind and wanted to, take somewhere, be part of it, or look at us through the glass like we were assholes.
With disdain every day.
You know what I mean? It's just so weird to me, because he was just a kid, early 20s.
Yeah.
I don't even know if he was 20. What a pivotal part of
the early 20s, yeah.
Okay, what a pivotal moment in his career. And again, it was like you'd like to shake him and say, what's your deal, buddy? Like, you're so pissed off that certain records aren't being played, or the texture of this show isn't the way you would want it. Well, that's not very professional, because there's people that hate country music, but they're great country music jocks. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Weird.
Yeah.
But anyway.
No.
And I always respected the fact that, when and I didn't really understand Ivor's story.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't get it at the time because I really didn't know who Ivor was. Mm-hmm. But now in retrospect, you got to give, respect to Ivor, because you went, okay,
yes,
this isn't what I want to do anymore. But rather than stay there and just fucking neg can we swear on this podcast?
Yes, of course you did.
Okay.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Let's
rather
go.
than stay there and just neg everybody out and be a fucking downer, you went, okay, that's what you guys want to do. I'm going to have to go and do my thing somewhere else. And you had the, grown up, whatever, the courage of your convictions, whatever you want to say.
Well, so did Marsden.
And Marsden.
Yeah. Well, same with you, Scott, right? Eventually, it wasn't for you. You left, and
you're right.
Great.
And to Fred's point is, I was already working on my next gig. I saw the writing on the wall, and I didn't want to be part of the direction the station was going. And I started looking for something else. And it's so famously, I got fired in June of '92. The next day, I was already working at my next project, because I was working on that, getting it ready.
You know what, Scott? This term gets thrown around a lot, but that's what professionals do. And we weren't, we're all professionals. We weren't professionals in the sense of doctor, lawyer, whatever, but we conducted ourselves in a professional manner. And I didn't like what was going on there, so I left.
Right. Yeah. True.
Even our producer with Pete and Geets, Kevin O'Leary, great friend of mine, a great friend of Ivor's over the years. He used to sometimes come to work in bare feet and then complain he didn't make enough money to buy shoes. And more than once I said to him, well, Kevin, it might be time to look for a job where you can afford some shoes. Like, I don't know, what are you supposed to do? At some point, you have to make a decision. Mm-hmm. It's obvious, this radio station plays the type of music they do. They're never going to have a massive audience. They're never going to have massive, sales. We're never going to have massive salaries. So you might want to look for a job that pays enough for some shoes.
Well, eventually he went and worked at Cheapy's part-time. And that's why the CFNY roadshow started, Fred. I mean, it wasn't like, oh, we should go out and do the dances at the high school. It's like, you were paying me $7,000 a year. I didn't have two sticks to rub together. I got to do something or I can't survive.
That's right.
And that's why I asked David at the time, could we do this? I paid the station a percentage, and whatever we negotiated, we were able to, pay myself and pay the DJs who were the MCs on that, and everybody made money on it, and that's why it went on and became so successful.
And again, you conducted yourself in a professional manner. So did the Fred man there. I mean, I know he was part of Pete and Geets, and And, you were part of some morning shows before I got there. But, Fred understood, as he said a second ago. Fred was, early, I would say about Fred is very pragmatic. And he sees the world in a through a prism of pragmatism, which is is what we're discussing. If it doesn't work for you, then get out. And if you're going to stay, then make it work for you the best you can, which is what you did.
Well, not only that, and I got to be honest, it was explained to me over the years. I mean, Labatt's was a sponsor of my sportscast, and they liked me, and that helped me. And I was offered a job in the early days, like probably 1981, 82, to go to Chum FM. And I just came back to CFNY. And again, we had good sponsorship on the sport. I told them what the offer was, and they matched it. And then a few years after that, Gary Slate phoned me. I forget what sports guy left Q107. I went in there. They make me an offer. I took it back to CFNY. They matched it. So I stayed. You know what I mean? It's like,
nice.
If they hadn't have, I would have left for a better opportunity. I would have.
Yeah,
I had a similar situation when I left CFNY to go to Polygram, and I was being, wined and dined by Reiner to come back and be the music director again. And I went to Polygram and told them that, and boy, oh boy, did they ever take care of me after that. And so it worked out well for me, and decided not to go back. And in hindsight, I'm glad that I did. Now, Fred,
I'm sorry to just interject. Can we just stay on Reiner for one more second?
Sure.
Because I would just say, Reiner was a sweet guy.
Great guy.
He wasn't
great
a bad
guy.
guy.
Great
Reiner, in Reiner's defense, he never meant anybody any harm.
Nope.
And was, even though, he was a supporter of ours, Fred, he didn't not like us, even though we weren't really kind of in step with whatever vision he had. But my favorite Reiner story, not even sure if it's true, but I just love this. Apparently, maybe Fred told me this, but apparently when Reiner was caught wind of the fact that he was going to be let go, he hid under his desk.
I've heard that story. It wasn't from me.
He hid under his desk. They were coming to the station as if they couldn't find him, they couldn't fire him. I just love that.
Obviously, it can't be verified because he's dead.
I just love the idea. Reiner, management's coming out here. They want to talk to you. Okay, I'm going to hide it. Let me know when they're gone.
Oh yeah.
Anyway.
To properly document those years between 88 and 91, 92, I mean, it was so complicated. So much happened in that period of time. It was such a convoluted, crazy mess. That's why it's kind of skipped over in ways in the documentary, because it was just too long to iron out and fill into a proper story.
Well, yeah. I mean, when Cross tells those stories of getting the music list and waiting out, no, I'm not playing this and I'm not playing that. Like, who the fuck are you? You don't own the radio station. The people that own this radio station have asked you to play that music.
And that's like working at a clothing store where you're like, they bring in some new stock of clothes. And you're like, oh, I've got too much integrity to sell this top.
Are you fucking kidding me?
But Fred,
he tells that story like he's proud of himself, and to me, it's just so immature. But anyway, same with when Danny Elwell quit on air. It's like she embarrassed people that didn't deserve to be embarrassed. Great. You didn't like working at the radio station. Get it. Go in and tell the powers that be, then leave. But you go on air with this big grandstanding thing, like it's some great achievement. To me, I was disgusted by that. The next day when I heard about it, it was like, anyway.
I remember thinking at the time. No, you go ahead,
Howard.
Scott. Okay, well, I just remember thinking at the time, again, it was like take this great stand. But again, I'd only ever worked at commercial radio stations, and I think to myself, some of the guys I worked for out west, like Don Schaefer, if somebody quit on the air, that would be the end of them ever working on the air anywhere.
Right. Because he had that reach in the business, didn't he?
But I was going to say, can you imagine potentially hiring someone and going, well, tell me a few things about your last job. Well, I got pissed off at the way the station was going, so I quit on the air. Oh, did you?
So,
It's a good way of
so
looking at it. Right?
my answer to that, Fred specifically, is just young and stupid, young and
Absolutely.
foolish.
Right.
Because
Totally
I
agree.
remember I was so outspoken. You know, I didn't like what was happening. I did some really stupid things. I can't believe they could have fired me a good 5 or 6 times. I mean, on the air once, because I was doing evenings at the time, and I had made a deal that they could leave evenings alone because the ratings were already had traditionally good in the evening. So
Right.
I don't think we need to play all this top 40 stuff. So I had some more control in the evenings. But when the Thursday 30, which was a huge show, they decided, no, we're got to put this stuff on the Thursday 30. And Madonna was #1 in the Thursday 30.
Wow.
And I said on the air, I said, I can't believe I have to say this. #1, here's Madonna on CFNY in the Thursday 30. Press the button.
Yeah.
Boy, did I get shit the next day. Into the office. I just, and deservedly so, I was just absolutely read the riot act.
That's
and
like,
I can't believe I still had a job after that.
well, that's like being a salesman for Coca-Cola and saying, well, you know, Coca-Cola, I work for them, but I certainly don't like it. Coke's not a good drink.
I'm
Fred,
going to
you-
say this, but here's a Coke Zero.
Do you remember during the Casbys, and the Casbys were sponsored by Heinz Ketchup? And
Yes.
you were part of that morning show, and they made fun of Heinz Ketchup. They made a little splat sound. Casby sponsored by Heinz Ketchup. And they had
it sounded like
Louis
a
the
fart,
engineer.
really.
Yeah, it sounded like a fart, and it ran for weeks on the air. I mean, the morning show Pete and Geets used to make fun of all sorts of stuff. Tell me about your, you had the Pete and Geets, and at one point, wasn't it Pete and Geets and Ted and Fred at this, like all at the same time? Was that for a very short period? Do you remember?
You know what? I can't even
Yeah.
remember that, honestly. No.
Okay.
Pete and Geets and Ted and Fred. It was always Pete and Geets and me and Mike.
Right.
You know, Stafford did news, I did sports, but they had us in like at least once, sometimes twice an hour. We'd sit at the table and shoot the shit with them.
Yeah.
Here's a question I've never asked you, Fred. When you were doing the Pete and Geets morning show, how long would did you do top and bottom?
Oh, yeah. But remember,
by the way, for those listening, I'm top and bottom of the hour, not topping and bottoming.
yes.
Fred was
Thank you for the
top and bottom
clarification,
for Pete and
Howard.
Geets.
But-
But how long were your sportscasts?
Oh, they were long, but CFNY was under strict spoken word commitments at that time. Huge.
Right.
Yes.
And luckily, or whatever, sports was part of that. The spoken word was huge. So rather than having, a 15-minute newscast or whatever, it would be like 7 and 5 or whatever. You know what I mean? Like 7
So you get
news.
a good couple of minutes on the longer cast, and so 2 at the top, 60 seconds at the bottom kind of thing?
Oh, no, not 2 at the top. My sportscasts were 4 to 5 minutes at the top of the hour. But
So
that
it was long. Wait. Your sportscast was longer than the news?
No. The news was longer. Mike went about 7 because we
okay.
had to. We had to.
Oh, I see. So, 7 and 5.
Yes.
Go ahead.
No, and that wasn't too far out of the norm because even though like Q and Chum FM was similar formatted radio stations, different music, of course, their sportscasters went quite long too, just because we were more characters than sportscasters per se. So, yeah.
I look at you guys as being a real integral part of that morning show, and why I sort of kind of referenced the Pete and Geets, Ted and Fred thing, but like you and Mike, I mean, you guys did a lot of bits on your own.
Oh,
and
yeah.
Kevin did a lot of their own bits that all became part of that whole fabric of that show, which I thought was incredible.
Well, Peter was a lot like Howard, whereby he liked to use the people around him. And Peter, you know what I mean, would just sit back with that laugh. And really, you're doing a morning show, and then you have these guys all fresh out of college, full of ideas, all doing bits. Some worked, some didn't. Pete loved it. He thought it was fantastic, And Marsden used to say all the time, don't worry about it. If you get an idea, use it. If it's no good, well, then don't do it again. That was basically his philosophy. Yeah. But it was fun. It was just fun. And, we just we were just encouraged all the time.
It was pretty much, my recollection is that morning show was, they could do pretty much whatever they wanted, including the music that they wanted to play. Because I do recall, because I helped program this morning show.
Yeah, but how much were they? Here's a question I've never asked too. How were they playing like a full slate? Were they playing like 6, 7 songs or 4, 5, 6? What was it, Ivor?
It would have been they would have in certain in the sort of like the 7 to 8 or those prime early hours they wouldn't have so much, but that 9 to 10 hour
Right.
they were playing lots of records, because I think it was kind of like, I don't know, Fred, I can't remember whether you were on between 9 and 10 or whatever that the sports was on, but I remember Kevin sort of coining it to Pete, calling it Pete's Progressive Hour. So they started
That's
playing
right.
all these old prog records and things in that 9 to 10, and then of course they had all these novelty records that they played. There was we heard, I mean, there was more Slim Whitman on CFNY than just about any other station in Toronto. I got to say,
Slim Whitman, Ivor Biggun, all that kind of stuff.
In all morning shows Ivor did that started at 5:30 and ended at 9. But once in a while, I've done shows where it went on till 9:30 or 10. But the 9 to 10 o'clock hour, I was just, and now here's 17 in a row. Well, I go
right,
smoke.
that's what it was, right?
Yeah.
Well, and remember, Pete and Geets, through Kevin, through Ivor, played the music they played. You know, some of those songs, I don't think there was any rule that, if the song's more than 5 minutes, you can't play it. You played it anyway. So I think how many songs an hour, I think that was like a moving target, to be honest. Or if they were on a roll or there was some ongoing bit, then music could get pushed to the side, and Marsden endorsed that.
I remember one of the things that I don't remember the artist. I wish I did, but you know how the station was always big on like, oh, we're first on such and such, and CFNY plays this artist first, and or we're doing a world album premiere or whatever. I remember we actually one time on the morning show premiered an album on the morning show, and I remember Marsden goes, I'd never heard of that one before, but that's great. I'm glad that we did that. So they had that kind of
funny
freedom.
Music was a bit of a bone of contention, because early on, we were doing okay, but at some point in the mid 90s, 94, 95, 96, we had this ongoing bit called Humble and Fred #1 in 97. So when I came back in 92, we had this sort of, the joke was, we're not good now, but stick with us. We're going to be #1 in 1997. That was like years away. Yeah. And as it turned out, in typical Humble and Fred fashion, we became #1 in 1995. We just didn't tell anybody because it wrecked the bit. So we were the #1 morning show, 18 and 34, men and women in Toronto for a couple of years, right up until Stern came to town. So during that time, we were playing 6 songs an hour, sometimes 7. And we went to our bosses, Fred and I, and said, we're now we're pretty popular. We got all these ratings. We just want to cut it back to like 4 songs an hour. And we were never allowed to. And it was a bit of a thing with us. And one of the reasons that we've loved the talk format and then, of course, podcasting is we just thought we could handle it. Now, it was, at the time, and we were right. We could have handled it. And, later on, Blundell came in and he was allowed to play 2 and 3 and 4 songs. But one of the things, the traditional thing on a radio station like that was nothing's as popular as the music. And I would say, yes, that's true. We're playing the best music, but we're pretty popular too. They're not just coming to this show anymore to hear, whatever, Soundgarden. And, and even when we would have big stars in, I'm going to tell you a quick story. We had Dave Grohl in on more than one occasion and could only talk to him for 5 minutes.
Yeah.
Like, it was absurd.
And you know what? You're completely right, Howard, because it wasn't until years later, and there was a couple of key markets in the U.S.,
That's
this
right.
story, is that where their morning shows were down to like 1, 2 songs, and then no songs because they were so popular. And then every programmer was, terrified of that. But all of a sudden realized, holy shit, we're not playing any music, and our show is #1 in the market.
That's
and
right.
I wish you could go back in a time machine and just, tell the programmers of the time going, just let these guys do what they're going to do, and you'll be fine. Everything's going to be fine.
And Stuart Myers was our program director back then, and he was the guy we approached, and, his philosophy was that bit better than the record you could have played. And, in retrospect, we disagree with that and we think it was wrong. Right. He should have let us go. Cause again, that format they allowed at some point, and I don't know who's responsible. for letting Dean Blundell go the way he did, and that became that his show became even more popular when they played less music. And I think Howard and I obviously could have handled that easily and probably done a better job at it than Blundell did, because we would have been more clever, than
he benefited from it. There was trends slowly over the years, trends to allow morning shows to play less music,
Scott,
right?
I went to a morning show seminar in 2005. I know it was because it was the summer that Katrina hit New Orleans, and I was in New Orleans. And I was the only guy there that had a morning show that played music. Like I was at all these little breakout tables, and we'd go around and talk about the formats of our show, and nobody played music. That was 2005. I remember talking to Gary Slade about it. I said, could we play less music? And why I said, actually, I asked him this question: why isn't there a station in Toronto where their FM morning guys are allowed to not play music? He says, we don't have to, because there's competition with so much, there's so many more morning shows per market in the States versus Toronto. And that's what he said. We don't need to do it. We don't need to do it. We play music, and this is how we do it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which is pretty sad when you think about it.
Yeah. Fair enough. Fair enough. Well, and look at you guys today, and with the podcast. And again, the other beauty of your success is that as you're older too, you've got so much material in terms of life, material and content. That's stories you've lived and idiosyncrasies in your life that you can share and continue to do so. And what's amazing, just if I blow your, smoke a little bit for you guys, is that as long as you've known each other and have told stories, it still sounds fresh, even when you repeat a story, I suppose. You've always got another take on it from a new perspective, because
we're doing that a lot more these days. We're repeating a lot more stories.
It's just amazing, though, that you could still keep it sounding fresh, right? Because I think I love the part that compliment. You bring in life experiences to it and your own personal stories that you guys are so still close, but also different. You lead different lives in many ways too, right? And it's all very interesting. Yeah. As we get older, we've just got that material from age.
Well, I don't know how he does it, but every day I put together a list of, little topics and bits and stories that I've collected, or things I'll say, oh, I know Fred will like that. And it looks like this. I'll show it to you, the camera. There's a bunch of little squiggles on a page. That's cool. Invariably at the end of a show, I go, oh, didn't get to half that stuff. Just because of the way we roll with each other. Yeah. And, I appreciate you saying that, Scott. But part of the reason that, after 35 years, 37 years, that we can still have these conversations with one another is because, from that very first summer in August of 1989, I just thought he was funny. And Fred thinks I'm funny. But I'm funny in a different way. And Fred's funny in a different way. And I was thinking about this interview today. Fred has made me laugh. Almost every show, I'd say every show we've done, there are moments where Fred makes me laugh. And what I love about the Dan element is that Fred and I will be laughing at something and Dan's just blinking at the camera. It's like, and that even makes us laugh more. The fact that he doesn't think it's funny.
Yeah. When I first started listening to the podcast, and so I wasn't like an early adopter, I was later on. But one of the things that I loved, and I do miss a little bit, do you remember you would start the podcast and you would go 15, 20 minutes, sometimes a half hour before the intro. Do you remember that used to happen? Because it was just free flowing, and it was just so interesting. And it was like, shit, we need to start the show. And I know you had sponsors that you wanted to get in a little earlier in that. But that was, I always remember that going, Jesus, they haven't even really started yet.
Right. So we start doing the podcast. We're doing pretty good. We're seeing listenership. We're getting sponsors. And remember that time? I don't know why Dave Farrow came in.
Yeah.
But he came and he sat after the show. We're sitting there and he's going, one thing I've noticed is you guys, you must get to the point quicker. I think that's something you should think about. Is really, do you want to get to the point quicker? And Howard and I look at each other and it's like, holy fuck! Like,
that's a good impression.
He does a great.
No, it was just so not what we were going to do, and the reason we were not going to do it is because we own the fucking place. You know what I mean?
Not
we
only
own
that,
the station.
But we understood what Scott pointed out. We understood it was in And it's going to sound like I'm not trying to make a profound point, but it's in the meandering. It's in the meandering.
Yes.
That is the secret. It's the sweet. It's the secret sauce. It's the juice, man.
Yes.
It's not in getting to the point. The points are fine. They'll be there. But I just know, even now, like we start the show with Dan's intro, but we'll talk for 15 or 20 minutes, and I'll go, okay, well, welcome to today's show, everybody. I guess we should. And then I literally start it, and I like that feeling because I never know what we're going to talk about.
Yes. And further to that feeling thing, Howard and I know each other so well. Like the other morning, we must have spent 10 minutes on pranks that I pulled at high school.
Yeah.
Right.
So we're just talking, and there's a little opening there, and I know if I bring this up, Howard's going to go with it. You know what? I can just feel it. If I bring this up, he's going to expand on it. He's going to ask me about it. It's going to afford me the chance to be funny, and then him react and be funny. So nowhere on this sheet, nowhere in my mind when the show started were we going to talk about high school pranks. It became a 10-minute bit, and it was great. And he does that too, you know.
I figured that, yeah.
Well, we did the same thing on ours. 2 weeks ago, we talked about car stereos. And all of a sudden, Scott goes, this car stereo came out in 1979. I'm like, I had that car stereo. And then last week we talked about the 8-track chart. Well, we had to have a big conversation about 8-tracks and parties and what 8-tracks we used to have. So it's a similar thing.
Well, relatable stories are really good. Remember back in the early days of radio too, some program directors, didn't they used to say, do not use the word I.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
I remember that. Remember that, Scott, being disc jockey?
Fucking
Can't use the word I. I remember people, there's been program directors who would say things like, no one wants to hear your personal stories. Well, that's not true. I would say to you guys, like, because you had mentioned that bit about the 8-tracks and the car stereos. Yeah. You know, those are the things, him talking about high school pranks or us talking about any of the other inanities, the things that people... You've heard this phrase before, Scott, as a programmer. The stickiest stuff is the stuff like that car stereo stuff. Yes. Because everyone our age will relate to it. You start talking about 8-tracks, I can see one. I remember holding it. I remember looking at the label. I mean, those are, and you might not think that's, your podcast is the point of it, but that is the things that people will remember. And those are the things that'll come up to you when they meet you and go, when you guys were talking about that thing, and it's something you hadn't even considered before the show started.
Well, look back in the early days of Toronto radio, even, back when we were on the air in the early days, Wally Crowder was bar none, hands down, the champion of Toronto morning radio. What did he used to do all the time? Talk about where he had been the day before, or what he had done with a buddy the day before, or who somebody he had drinks with. And at the time, the most popular columnist in the Toronto Sun was Paul Rimstead. What did he write about? Where he was yesterday, what he did on the weekend, what his buddy said to him. Like, it was right there for you to see. But for some reason, radio had this sort of weird attitude that you couldn't talk about yourself. It was,
when we were doing the morning show here in 89, 90, 91, 92, whenever, just before Wally had retired, he had the highest quarter hour in North America. In Toronto. Do you guys know that?
No.
His 8 o'clock hour, higher than Chicago, New York, because of course they've got more stations, so they're not going to have those kind of numbers. But he was that, and then Fred's absolutely right. The things, the smallest things. And again, sometimes when we're doing the show and Freddie and I will be going on and on, I love when Dan will go, well, moving on. And we're like, not moving on. We're not moving on. We're going to continue this until we're sick of it.
We're going to beat the living shit out of this.
And just to bring it all full circle, nothing delights us more than somebody snubbing us. That is Humble and Fred. That's like hamburger helper.
They were some great episodes, and I know everybody's got to run on here and to wrap it up. But for everybody, we're
going to move on, are we, Scott?
But the one thing I just got to say, one of the funniest bits, and I know you because you've had listener emails about it, and I was listening to that episode when you guys were talking about BC not going the daylight saving time
change.
Yeah, the time change bit. And I know it wasn't a bit, it just happened. And I was, following along myself. And if I didn't have a piece of paper to write it out, I couldn't figure that out either.
I know.
Right? It was like, so the game starts here. And if the time changes, and you guys were back and forth so many times, it was hysterical. It was just like crying, laughing. It was very funny.
What seemed so obvious as 4 hours, as Howard kept maintaining, no, it's 2 hours. I just couldn't get my head around it. Well, that just doesn't make sense. They're 3 hours ahead. We're going back, and it's got to be 4. But somehow it's 2. Anyway.
But the
You know
fact
what? It happens to a lot of people when you're
but-
setting up Zoom calls in different time
yeah.
zones. We all screw that up.
But what I'll say about us and Fred in particular that day, that's a perfect example of, some people just have a innate sense of just to go with something.
Yeah.
Right.
And some people just don't have that muscle. And I would say that one of the reasons, and it happened very quickly in August, September, October of 1989, I could tell, and I had just come off, I'd only been back in radio at that time for maybe 15 months. So I've been doing stand-up all the time and been around lots and lots of funny people. But I could tell right away that he had a way of riffing that was not like sort of regular radio people. Yeah. That he would just go. Plus, I think he also understood quickly with me, no matter what he said to me, I would just go with it.
Yeah.
I would go with it, and then sometimes, and again, I don't know if he would get this, but sometimes he'll bring something up, and I'll go with it like it was my idea. I'm like, oh yeah, of course, and then all of a sudden now we're doing a bit that he started, but I'm like, especially when Dan pushes back with us, I'm like, and that's what it sort of has this feel like you never know what we're going to say because we don't know what we're going to say.
I love it.
Yeah.
Yes.
Was there anything quickly on there that you guys wanted to get to that we
there's
haven't?
about 10 questions you never got to ask.
No.
Go ahead and ask.
Ivor, it's up to you.
I think we're good. I'm laughing my head off on all the stuff that we've talked about today, and it's we've talked off the air on many occasions, and you guys are good friends to me and Scott, and I just appreciate the support for what we're doing here, and we'll continue to support you guys and doing what you're doing. And thanks for just being our friends.
Well, thanks for having us on.
Thank you for being
Ivor,
our friends.
I didn't work with you, but I've gotten to know you over the years. You've never been anything but the kindest person to me and my family.
Yes.
Scott Turner, I don't know you very well, but I know people who love you. No, I do. It's funny. I talk a lot about you. I talked a lot about you with Lumby. Lumby loves you.
Yes.
Let me take this opportunity with Scott Turner. Between the years 2008 and 2011, I was a program director in Peterborough, Ontario, Canada. Yes,
Yes, he was.
Now listen, I had a master plan. I thought, okay, they were going to pay me no money, but I was fine from the money that I made. And I thought, I'm going to look at this as, it's like going to school and being paid, a small salary. So that was my attitude. So I go to Peterborough, and then I'm plunked in that situation as a program director. I bullshitted my way into the position, like most people do. And to be honest, I wasn't equipped with the knowledge maybe that I should have, even for that job. So quite often, I would pick up the phone and I would call this guy, Scott Turner in Kitchener, who was a well-respected program director in Chorus Radio at the time. And I would ask him question after question, what I should do in this situation. This has popped up. What would you do? Anyway, he always answered my calls. He was always very helpful, and I will never forget him for that because he saved my ass many times in Peterborough.
Thank you, Freddie.
It's
Thank
true.
you.
True.
Oh, that's awesome. Thank you.
Remember those calls, Scotty?
Yes, I do. Yes, I do. And I love that the scene in the documentary when Marsden, is being asked to be the PD, and he goes, "Oh yeah, I don't want that job."
No,
That's
no,
not
the
a
way
good job.
Horrible job.
No, when he says they said to him, "We want you to be the PD," and Marsden goes, "I thought, I knew this PD and I knew that PD.
Yeah.
Oh, I don't want to be that."
Yes, that's exactly it. Oh yeah.
And thank you for having us on. I really enjoyed it.
Yes,
and hey, I'm glad you guys, we had talked this a couple of years ago about you guys doing the podcast. And look at you, you're all professional and grown up with real microphones and headphones. Oh, yeah, man.
It works.
It's crazy. Do you
Hey,
guys want
thanks
us to
for
do
putting
any
bums in the
ideas?
seats for us. And
You're welcome.
Yes,
Yeah.
thank you for Brampton. You guys helped us sell that out, so much appreciated there.
Do you guys want us to do one of those IDs? Hi, it's Humble and Fred. You're listening to the Music Machine. I just keep
That's it. We're changing to the music machine
getting
from
it
Music
wrong.
Milestones.
One good thing.
Music Gallstones is really fun.
One good thing about podcasting, and the reason there are so many, back in 2011, when we started our podcast, we got up and running for about $3,000, $3,500, Howard. All the equipment.
Yeah, $3,500 plus the money we had to pay to Chorus.
Yeah, no, but
yes.
you know what I'm saying? And then we didn't cash probably a check for 6 or 7 months, whatever it was. But then people they'd be blown away if they knew when we were really humming with the podcast, when there were no other podcasts, we were doing really well, like money-wise. The pie's a lot smaller, or the pieces of the pie are a lot smaller, whatever that saying is. But that's the one thing about podcasting. You guys have all that equipment. It's relatively easy and cheap to get up and running, at least.
Absolutely.
I'm a little concerned about the amount of booze that Turner's drinking over there. It just seems like when he first came on the Zoom call here, Fred, I'm like, I'm not going to say anything about that, but that's an aggressive amount of booze. Like, I know you're all cool and everything, Scott, but it's a little early to trot out the booze cart.
Get into the sauce.
I know. It's a classic, mid-century booze cart there.
That's very cool, actually.
All my single malt, yes. Yeah.
Anyway, thanks, guys. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you, too. All
Thank
the
you,
best,
guys.
gents. We'll talk to you again soon.
Okay, loving yous all.
Loving you too
All
much.
right. All the best.
Love Gallstones. Love it. Music Gallstones.
Music
Love the show.
Gallstones. Okay.
Music
Scott.
Gallstones with Ivor and Scott.